You are not owed anything, not comfort, not recognition, not fairness. The world does not revolve around your preferences, and the sooner you accept this, the freer you become. Entitlement is a silent poison. It makes you believe you deserve more just for existing. It blinds you to your own agency and replaces effort with expectation. But the Stoic walks another path. He doesn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What can I do with it?" Because strength begins when entitlement ends, and peace begins when you stop demanding and start appreciating. This episode is not just about humility, it's about reclaiming power by letting go of what was never promised to you in the first place. If you've ever felt the weight of disappointment, the sting of unmet expectations, or the anger of not getting what you thought you deserved, listen closely. This is for you. 1. The world owes you nothing. There's a quiet rebellion in accepting this, a deep, almost unsettling liberation, because for most of us, the belief that we're owed something, by life, by others, by the world itself, is planted early. We grow up hearing messages that if we do the right things, play by the rules, stay kind, work hard, show up, then the universe will somehow align to reward us. That success, love, respect, happiness, these things will be delivered like packages with our name on them. But then life happens, and it doesn't always match the narrative. You work hard, but someone else gets the promotion. You love deeply, but they still leave. You give your all and still come up short. And something inside you screams, "This isn't fair." But the truth is, fairness was never part of the agreement, because there was no agreement. The world doesn't owe you success for effort. It doesn't owe you kindness for kindness. It doesn't owe you peace for your suffering. The world owes you nothing. Now that might sound harsh, even cold. But look deeper. That truth isn't there to break you. It's there to set you free. Because the moment you stop expecting life to hand you something, you begin to reclaim power over your own narrative. You stop waiting, you stop resenting, you stop keeping score, and instead you start building. You start showing up for the work, not because you're promised a reward, but because it's the kind of person you want to be. When we live with entitlement, we carry an invisible burden. We see every delay as an offense, every rejection as injustice, every silence as betrayal, and that mindset is exhausting. It poisons joy. It blinds us to opportunity. It creates a constant undercurrent of frustration. But when you let go of that entitlement, when you truly accept that no one owes you a thing, suddenly everything becomes a gift. Every smile, every chance, every moment of peace becomes something precious. Not because it was promised, but because it wasn't. Marcus Aurelius, writing as a Roman emperor surrounded by power, wealth, and status, still reminded himself daily not to expect ease. He wrote, "Don't go expecting Plato's Republic. Just be content if one small thing today goes as it should." That humility, that grounded realism, is the root of strength, because it strips away illusions and replaces them with clarity. Letting go of entitlement doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means shifting your foundation from what the world should give to what you choose to give to the world. Your focus turns from getting to becoming, from receiving to creating, from waiting to acting. And that's where real peace lives, not in comfort, but in clarity. So if you're feeling overlooked, underappreciated, forgotten, or behind, pause. Ask yourself, what am I clinging to that was never promised to me? What am I expecting from the world that I haven't truly earned, or that no one can guarantee? and then let it go, not in defeat, but in freedom. Because when you stop asking the world to deliver you something it never owed you, you finally get to start delivering yourself to the world. 2. Expectations breed disappointment. Most of our pain doesn't come from what happens, it comes from what we expected to happen. It's not the delay that hurts the most, it's that we believed things would move faster. It's not the silence that cuts us, it's that we thought someone would reach out. It's not even the failure itself, it's that we imagined something else, and reality didn't match the picture we painted in our mind. Expectations, when held tightly, become emotional traps. They take the unpredictable nature of life and try to cage it into neat little outcomes. But life doesn't fit neatly into our imagined timelines. And when we cling to expectations instead of facing life as it is, disappointment is inevitable. The Stoics warned us about this. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them." And one of the most dangerous judgments we carry is the belief that something should happen a certain way. That because we've done enough, we deserve a specific result. That because we've been patient, success must follow. But life doesn't work on emotional contracts. It unfolds on its own terms, not ours. When you expect others to treat you exactly how you treat them, you create resentment. When you expect everything to go smoothly because you planned well, you create anxiety. When you expect recognition just because you did the right thing, you set yourself up for bitterness. Expectations turn life into a transaction. I did this, so I should get that. But nothing in nature works that way. The rain doesn't fall just because you're ready. The sun doesn't rise because you asked. Things happen, or they don't. Not based on your wants, but on causes far greater than your control. This doesn't mean you stop hoping or stop planning or stop striving. It means you shift your inner posture. You prepare for the best, but detach from needing it. You act with purpose, but let go of the outcome. That's real strength. Not apathy, but equanimity. Not coldness, but clarity. The ability to walk through life with open hands, not clenched fists. Letting go of expectations doesn't kill ambition. It purifies it. You're no longer working for a guarantee. You're working because it's who you are. You're no longer kind just to be treated kindly. You're kind because it reflects your values. And when setbacks come, you're not crushed. You're grounded because you weren't clinging to a fantasy. You were walking with presence. You start to see things as they are, not just as you hoped they'd be. And from that place, your reactions change. You don't take things so personally. You don't spiral when something doesn't go your way. You don't interpret every closed door as rejection. You see it as redirection. You become more peaceful, not because life got easier, but because your expectations stopped choking every experience before it could even unfold. So ask yourself, what am I demanding from life, from others, from myself? And what would happen if I let go of that demand? Would I suffer less? Would I move more freely? Would I discover something better than I imagined? The Stoic learns to meet life with clear eyes and an open heart. He replaces "this should happen" with "let's see what happens." And in doing so, he frees himself, not from effort, but from the illusion that he controls the ending. That's where peace begins, not in forcing outcomes, but in flowing with them. 3. Focus on what you give, not what you get. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in life is moving from a mindset of transaction to a mindset of contribution. Most people live in a subtle but constant negotiation with the world. If I give this, will I get that? They give love, hoping to receive it. They show up, hoping to be seen. They help hoping for appreciation. But this way of living is exhausting because the results are never guaranteed. And when the return doesn't match the investment, bitterness grows, slowly, quietly, and deeply. But the Stoic asks a different question. Who do I want to be regardless of what I get in return? That question cuts through the noise. It puts the focus back where it belongs, not on the reaction, but on the action. Not on the outcome, but on the origin. Because when your actions are rooted in who you are, not what you want to receive, you become stable, clear, powerful. Giving without attachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but from a place of strength, not need. It means you serve because it's meaningful, not because it's marketable. It means you speak the truth not to be praised, but because silence would betray your character. You lead, you build, you love, not for applause, but because it reflects your principles. That is rare, that is hard, and that is exactly why it's liberating. Seneca wrote, "A good character, when established, does not wait for reward," because he understood. The reward is in the doing. The fulfillment is in the integrity of the act itself. A generous person feels full when they give, not empty when they're not thanked. A disciplined person feels strong in effort, not frustrated in delay. A wise person speaks not to be agreed with, but because silence would be dishonest. When you focus on what you get, you hand over your peace to things you can't control. Reactions, outcomes, opinions. But when you focus on what you give, you regain your power. You become the source, not the seeker. And the paradox? Often when you stop chasing approval, it finds you. When you stop demanding love, you create space for real connection. When you give without condition, you receive in ways you never imagined. So reflect on this. Are you living in transaction or in contribution? Are you keeping quiet tabs? I did this, they owe me that. Are you adjusting your goodness based on what you're getting back? If so, pause, breathe. Remember, you are not here to trade your authenticity for attention. You are here to live your values, even when no one sees, even when it goes unrewarded. Because that's what builds inner strength. That's what builds peace. The Stoic doesn't calculate worth by what he receives. He builds it by what he gives, freely, fully, and without expectation. And in that giving, he discovers the one reward no one can take from him, the power to live aligned with his highest self. 4. Entitlement is the enemy of peace. Peace begins where entitlement ends. The moment you believe you're owed something, respect, recognition, ease, fairness, you give away your inner stillness. Because now, every unmet expectation becomes an insult. Every delay feels like an injustice. Every challenge becomes personal. Entitlement doesn't just distort your view of the world. It corrupts your relationship with yourself. It places your emotional balance in the hands of things you don't control. And that is the fastest way to live frustrated, reactive, and restless. The entitled mind is constantly scanning, what do I deserve? What am I not getting? It turns life into a courtroom and everyone around you into witnesses for or against your case. But the Stoic doesn't waste his time building imaginary lawsuits against the world. He doesn't argue with reality. He works with it. He understands peace is not given, it's created. Not by bending the world to your will, but by aligning yourself with what is. Epictetus warned us clearly, it is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And entitlement is one of the most dangerous opinions we carry. It's the idea that because we've suffered, we should be compensated. That because we've tried, we should succeed. that because we are kind, we should be treated gently. But life doesn't sign contracts like that. It doesn't pay back pain in predictable ways, and when you cling to those mental contracts, you live in constant violation of your own peace. You start to feel like a victim even when you're not. You start resenting people for not fulfilling roles they never agreed to play, and slowly, without realizing it, you lose your freedom, because entitlement doesn't just disappoint you, it imprisons you. It traps you in the belief that life owes you something in return for who you are. But the truth is, life owes you nothing, and that's not sad, that's freeing. Because if nothing is owed, then everything is a gift. And when everything becomes a gift, gratitude takes root. You stop focusing on what's missing and start appreciating what is. You stop trying to control people and start working on yourself. You stop reacting and start responding. So how do you let go of entitlement? You start by noticing it. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I deserve better," pause. Ask yourself, do I truly? Or am I using that belief to avoid taking responsibility? Then redirect. Instead of expecting more, become more. Instead of demanding fairness, embody grace. Instead of clinging to what should be, meet life as it is, with open hands and a clear mind. Peace doesn't come from getting what you believe you deserve. It comes from releasing the need to deserve anything at all, from showing up again and again because it's the right thing to do, not because it guarantees anything in return. That's strength. That's freedom. That's Stoicism. And that is how you become untouchable, not because life bends to your demands, but because your soul no longer depends on them. 5. Replace demands with gratitude. There's a shift so subtle, it can go unnoticed, yet it changes everything. The moment you stop saying, "I need more," and start saying, "Thank you," that shift from demand to appreciation is not just a change in language. It's a complete reorientation of the soul. Because when your heart is full of demands, it cannot hold peace. But when it's grounded in gratitude, even the smallest moment becomes enough. Most people walk through life with a hidden list of what the world should provide, a silent script of how people should treat them, a fantasy of how smooth the journey should be. And when reality doesn't match the script, frustration rises. We start thinking, this isn't fair, this isn't how it's supposed to go. But that "supposed to" is the problem. It's not the pain that makes us bitter. It's the belief that the pain shouldn't be there. It's not the delay that makes us anxious. It's the assumption that it should have happened by now. Gratitude dismantles that illusion. It doesn't deny suffering. It transforms your relationship with it. It looks at the same situation, the same challenge, the same setback, and instead of asking, "Why me?" it whispers, "Even this has something to teach me." That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because the Stoic understands, life doesn't owe him anything, so whatever he's given, however small, is met with appreciation, not assumption. Seneca once wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart," and he wasn't speaking from a place of comfort. He was exiled, targeted, betrayed, yet he still found space in his soul to be thankful, not for everything, but in everything. Because gratitude isn't about pretending everything is good. It's about choosing to see the good that still exists, even in the dark. When you replace demands with gratitude, you become harder to disturb. The minor inconveniences stop stealing your energy. The lack of recognition no longer feels like rejection. You stop measuring your life by what's missing and start living it based on what's already present. And in that shift, your energy becomes magnetic. not because you chase more, but because you reflect enough. So ask yourself honestly, what are you demanding right now? From others? From life? From yourself? And what would happen if you released the demand and replaced it with a deep breath of gratitude? Could you feel lighter? Could you move freer? Could you find strength, not by adding more, but by finally seeing what's already here? Gratitude is not passive, it's not naive, it's a daily discipline, a mental training, a Stoic practice. It takes strength to say thank you when you don't feel like it. But that's where real peace is found. Not in a perfect life, but in a grateful one. Not in controlling the external world, but in mastering your internal one. Because in the end, what you thank grows. What you demand often shrinks. And what you appreciate has a way of returning tenfold. Not always in form, but always in meaning. 6. Earn respect, don't expect it. Respect is not a right you're born with. It's a reflection of how you carry yourself. And one of the greatest sources of quiet suffering comes from expecting people to treat you a certain way simply because of who you think you are. You expect them to see your intentions, to acknowledge your struggles, to understand your depth, to match your energy. And when they don't, something inside you tightens. You feel unseen, dismissed, maybe even betrayed. But the Stoic doesn't waste energy demanding respect. He earns it, in silence, through action, through unwavering character. In a world that chases validation, entitlement says, "You owe me," but dignity says, "I'll show you." The difference is profound. Entitlement waits to be recognized. Dignity moves whether or not anyone's watching. And it's often the most grounded, humble people who command the deepest respect, not because they asked for it, but because they lived in a way that made it impossible to ignore. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the heart of Stoicism. Don't argue, don't beg, don't demand. Embody. Be so disciplined, so consistent, so rooted in principle, that respect becomes a natural consequence of your presence, not a condition of it. But this requires patience. Respect isn't immediate. It builds slowly, often invisibly. You might do the right thing for years without applause. You might walk with integrity and be overlooked. But remember, true respect isn't loud. It's not viral. It's not always visible. It's the quiet trust people feel when your actions match your words. It's the calm confidence you project when your inner life is stable. It's the credibility that follows you, not because you chased it, but because you lived it. And if someone doesn't respect you, ask yourself, have I truly given them a reason to? Have I shown up consistently, acted with grace under pressure, spoken with clarity, not arrogance? If the answer is yes, let their lack of respect be their burden, not yours. But if the answer is no, use it as a mirror, not a wound. Step back, reflect, strengthen. This doesn't mean you shrink yourself. It means you stop performing for approval. You don't wear your values like a costume. You make them your second skin. You earn trust through repetition, through presence, through restraint. Because anyone can demand respect for a moment, but only character can sustain it. So stop expecting applause for doing what's right. Stop assuming your good intentions should be enough. And most importantly, stop taking disrespect personally. Sometimes people simply don't see clearly. Sometimes their lack of respect is about their own insecurity. And sometimes they're just not paying attention. But that doesn't change your path. You keep walking it, with calm, with consistency, with quiet strength, because the person who earns respect is the one who doesn't chase it. 7. Choose humility over assumption. There's a dangerous comfort in assumption. The mind likes to fill in gaps, to believe it knows what others think, what's coming next, what we deserve. Assumptions feel like control, but in reality, they're shortcuts, lazy substitutes for awareness. And one of the most corrosive assumptions we carry is that we already know enough, that we've seen enough, that we are right simply because we've thought about it long enough. This mindset closes the door to learning. It shuts out growth. And it blocks the very humility that Stoicism teaches us to seek. True humility is not weakness. It is clarity. It's the courage to say, I might be wrong. It's the strength to ask, what am I not seeing? It's the grace to accept that your perspective is incomplete, that even your deepest beliefs might be flawed. In a world that rewards loud opinions and fast conclusions, humility is radical. It means you choose curiosity over pride, silence over noise, observation over reaction. The Stoics warned against arrogance, not just the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet, internal form that whispers, I already know. That voice convinces you to stop listening, to dismiss new ideas, to write people off before they finish speaking. And the tragedy is, every time you assume you know everything, you rob yourself of something more valuable, the chance to grow. Seneca once said, the first step toward wisdom is the recognition of one's own ignorance. That's not a passive thought, it's a challenge. It asks you to approach each moment with openness, to admit you don't control all outcomes, to stop assuming people should understand you, agree with you, or treat you a certain way, because all of that is rooted in ego, not awareness. Assumption says, I know how this will go. Humility says, let me find out. Assumption says, they should act differently. Humility says, maybe I don't see the full picture. One path hardens you, the other softens you, and in that softening, you become stronger because now you can adapt, you can learn, you can improve. So ask yourself, where have I made assumptions lately about people, about outcomes, about myself? Have you written someone off without hearing their full story? Have you dismissed advice because it challenged your beliefs? Have you let pride close the door that humility would have opened? Humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking more clearly. It's choosing reality over ego. It's standing on the firm ground of, I don't know yet, and building from there. And in that space, real wisdom takes root. Real understanding grows. Real connection forms. The Stoic doesn't assume clarity, he seeks it. He doesn't cling to status, he lets action speak. And he doesn't let his pride cost him peace. He replaces it with humility, not to shrink, but to see, not to submit, but to evolve. In every situation, you have a choice. Inflate yourself with assumptions or anchor yourself with humility. One feeds your ego, the other feeds your soul. 8. Nothing is guaranteed. Appreciate everything. Most of what we complain about are things we assumed we'd always have. Our health, our energy, our freedom, our loved ones, even time itself. But the truth, often ignored until it's too late, is this: nothing is guaranteed. Not tomorrow, not the next breath, not the people sitting across from you. Life doesn't come with renewals or warranties, and if you live as though everything is permanent, you'll take it all for granted until it's gone. The Stoics didn't say this to frighten us. They said it to wake us up, to shake us out of the trance of assumption, because when you treat what's uncertain as if it were guaranteed, you fall asleep at the wheel of your own life. You rush through moments, waiting for something better. You speak harshly, assuming there'll be time to apologize later. You postpone joy, assuming it'll be more convenient tomorrow. But what if there's no tomorrow? What if this version of today is the last time it looks this way? Epictetus reminded us, "You are a soul carrying around a corpse," a blunt, uncomfortable reminder that the body is temporary. The people you love are temporary. This very breath is on loan. And so, the wise person doesn't panic about this truth. He honors it. He doesn't waste time asking why things are fleeting. He simply uses what he's been given with full attention. Appreciation is not an emotion, it's a decision. It's a way of looking at the world that says, I don't own any of this. I'm just lucky to hold it for a while. And that shift, when internalized, transforms even the most ordinary things. A conversation becomes sacred. A walk becomes a gift. A quiet moment becomes a miracle. Most people look for reasons to be grateful when things go well, when they feel good, when they win. But the Stoic creates reasons. He doesn't need perfection to feel appreciation. He doesn't wait for life to be easy before he says, "Thank you." He says it anyway, because even struggle contains something precious: awareness, perspective, a reminder. So take inventory quietly. What are you assuming will always be there? The person you didn't call back, the morning you rushed through, the breath you're taking now. What if none of it was guaranteed? What if, instead of demanding more, you paused and fully appreciated what's already here? There is freedom in this kind of gratitude, not because you're clinging to what's fragile, but because you're no longer asleep to its value. You're no longer sleepwalking through your days, numb to the blessings hidden in the noise. You're awake, and to be awake in a world of distraction is power. The Stoic doesn't fear impermanence. He welcomes it, because impermanence sharpens awareness. It makes everything more vivid, more urgent, more alive. And that's what makes appreciation so powerful. It anchors you in the now, without begging the now to last forever. So remember this: when nothing is promised, everything is a gift. And once you stop expecting life to deliver what it never guaranteed, you become grateful for what it already gave you. 9. Let effort replace entitlement. There's a silent belief that creeps into the mind unnoticed. If I try hard enough, things should work out. If I'm kind, people should be kind back. If I show up, I should be rewarded. But life isn't a vending machine where effort automatically equals reward. It's more like a field. Your job is to plant, to water, to protect. Whether the harvest comes quickly, late, or never isn't fully up to you. The Stoic accepts this, and that acceptance frees him. He doesn't act to guarantee a result. He acts because it's the right thing to do. He replaces entitlement with effort, not because he's given up, but because he's finally focused on what he can control. The entitled person thinks, I showed up, so I deserve success. But the wise person thinks, I showed up, and that was success. There's a big difference. One waits for external validation to feel worthy. The other finds fulfillment in the act itself. The Stoic learns to respect effort for what it is, a reflection of discipline, not a transaction with the universe. Marcus Aurelius once asked, "Is your task hard? Do not think it impossible." That sentence carries a quiet rebellion, a challenge to all the voices inside you that say, "This is too much, I've done enough, I deserve a break." The Stoic doesn't deny those feelings. He simply doesn't let them lead. Because once you expect a reward for every step, disappointment becomes your shadow. But when you simply walk, step by step, with clear intention and no demand, you become free from outcomes. That doesn't mean you stop dreaming or setting goals. It means you stop demanding that life cooperate with your timeline. You stop measuring your worth by results. You stop thinking that hardship is proof of failure. Instead, you lean in, you work quietly, you stay consistent. And slowly, the results take care of themselves, not always as expected, but often in deeper, more meaningful ways. So ask yourself, are you acting out of purpose or out of entitlement? Are you doing the work because it's part of who you are, or because you expect something in return? When the applause doesn't come, do you keep going? When no one notices your effort, do you still show up with full integrity? Effort isn't glamorous, it doesn't trend, but it's the difference between those who build a strong inner world and those who just decorate the surface. Effort rewires your mind. It shapes your values. It teaches you to find satisfaction not in what you get, but in who you become by doing the work. So let entitlement fade. Let it die quietly, and in its place, plant effort. Relentless, quiet, sincere effort. Not because the world owes you anything, but because you owe it to yourself to try. Not for a guarantee, but for the growth, for the focus, for the discipline, for the pride of knowing you kept your word to yourself, even when no one else was watching. That's where power lives, not in what you demand, but in what you earn. 10. Receive with grace, not grievance. There's a subtle test life gives us every day. It's not in how well we speak, how loudly we defend ourselves, or how clearly we state our desires. It's in how we receive, how we accept what comes to us, especially when it's not what we planned, not what we hoped for, and not what we think we deserve. Do we meet life's offerings with grace or with grievance? The entitled mind asks, why didn't I get more? The disciplined soul says, thank you for this too. There's power in that, a quiet resilience. Because receiving with grace doesn't mean you settle or stop growing. It means you stop poisoning the present with constant dissatisfaction. It means you know how to accept a gift, whether it's a success, a setback, a compliment, or a correction, without twisting it into resentment or self-pity. Some people receive praise and immediately deflect it. It wasn't a big deal. Others receive help and feel shame. I should have done it alone. And many receive challenges and collapse under the weight of why me. But the Stoic receives life the way a warrior receives terrain, not asking if it's fair, but asking how to move wisely through it. Seneca said, we should take whatever happens with equanimity and accept it as part of the whole. In other words, don't cherry-pick reality. Don't accept only what flatters you. Welcome what challenges you too. That's where growth lives, not just in the giving, but in the gracious receiving. It's easy to clench your fists at life, to meet each disappointment with complaint, to feel like you're always coming up short. But that reaction drains you, it steals your clarity, and more importantly, it keeps you stuck in a cycle of resistance. You become so obsessed with what you didn't get that you miss what you actually have. Grace, on the other hand, is a state of openness. It says, this is what came. I will learn from it. I will honor it. I will rise through it. That doesn't mean passivity, it means poise. You don't react from ego. You respond from strength. You don't take things personally. You take them consciously. So how do you practice receiving with grace? Start small. Accept a compliment without minimizing it. Accept a delay without assuming it's an attack on your worth. Accept a moment of silence without filling it with noise. Accept that sometimes life is quiet, hard, unpredictable, and yet still full of meaning if you're willing to listen. Receiving well is an art. It's a kind of emotional posture, and like any posture, it can be trained. Stand still in discomfort. Let gratitude rise in the middle of lack. Let humility open your hands when your ego wants to close them. Because the truth is, life doesn't owe you more than this moment. And what you do with it, how you carry it, how you receive it, will define not just your path, but your character. Grievance makes you bitter. Grace makes you wise. Choose carefully. Entitlement is subtle. It hides beneath your goals, disguises itself as confidence, and whispers that you've done enough to deserve more. But when you live in that mindset, when you walk through the world expecting, demanding, assuming, you suffer. You lose your grip on peace because everything feels like a transaction that never fully pays off. And the truth is, life doesn't owe you anything. Not comfort, not applause, not fairness. But that's not a reason to despair. It's an invitation to rise. When you let go of entitlement, you reclaim your focus. You stop waiting for the world to deliver what you've already been carrying inside you all along. Strength, clarity, discipline, peace. You stop comparing your journey to others, and you begin to measure progress not by applause, but by alignment. You show up because it matters. You give because it's who you are. You act not out of bitterness or expectation, but out of integrity. This is what it means to live with grace, to replace assumptions with humility, to let effort lead the way, to stop asking for guarantees and start offering presence. And when things do come your way, praise, opportunity, joy, you receive them without clinging, without demanding more, because the person who lets go of what they thought they were owed is finally free to see what life has been offering them all along. So, don't chase respect, embody it. Don't demand peace, practice it. Don't expect the world to understand your value. Be so aligned with it that nothing can shake you. That's the Stoic way. If this episode spoke to you, don't just listen. Live it. And if you found value in this, share it with someone who might need to hear these words today. Not because they're owed anything, but because they, like you, are ready to grow without waiting for permission.